welcome back to my channel. If you have been here and you are keeping up with my series, welcome back. If you are new, howdy, and just know that I am Surefitjohnson, and basically I am doing a full-blown series on me traveling on my solo trip and just abroad during COVID, and just really get into the basics of Cancun, honey. Get into the basics of Cancun. So this video right here is going to be all about trips before traveling. So right now we are in the age of COVID. COVID is still very much present, and so before traveling, I feel like that is one of the biggest things. Before traveling, I feel like one of the biggest things is really just understanding the country you're going to and how they treat COVID. And also, when you come back to your country, before you come back to your country, understanding how COVID is treated and the protocol in your country. So I am from, and I live in the US, and in order to come back to the US, you have to have a negative COVID test within 24 hours. Now right now I'm making this video in 2020, March 2020, and so make sure you just go and look, Google, before you just say, hey, this is what this girl said, and so that's what it is. Things can change. So my tip to you is just make sure you look before, because before I went and I looked up videos, you had 3 days, like you could get a test up to 3 days before traveling back to the US. But now you cannot do that. It has to be within 24 hours. So could they change that even for a shorter amount of time? I don't know. I doubt it, but I'm saying make sure you double check before you leave and you're coming back to the US. Okay, so for me, I got my COVID testing literally 24 hours before my flight, because you can't do 25, 26, 27. It has to be 24 hours or less window period. I had my test scheduled before I even went to Cancun, just because I wanted it to all be set up. Now there are many different opportunities for you to get COVID testing when you go to Cancun to come back to America or wherever you're from. And I got mine set up at the villa that I was staying at. I went to an Airbnb and I got mine right there. There were tons of other places that you could go to just walking around Hotel Zone, like they're literally on every corner. And a lot of hotels, so I would check with your hotel and see if they do COVID testing. The number one thing though, you guys, usually COVID testing is not free. I paid 1,000 Mexican pesos for my COVID test, and it was a house call, so I guess, but that's like $50 in America, so quite expensive. But just check, because your hotel might do it for free just because you're staying there. Okay, and then also make sure before you go to a certain country, if they have a mask rule that you must wear a mask everywhere. And if they do, just make sure you have masks with you, because it's not a problem to just, throw your mask on. But right now, airlines in general do require you wearing a mask. My day-to-day though, I don't wear a mask, so I just had to make sure that I kept mask in my bag, because if not, like, I would just typically forget to put on a mask, even like looking at other people with a mask. Going to Cancun, I did not have to get tested. Now some places, to even get into their country, you have to provide proof of a negative COVID test, but that was not the case going to Cancun at all, and that is as of now. So make sure you stay up to date with the times that you are going. So I would check like at least 2 weeks before you go, 1 week before you go, and before like you are departing. So that is my first tip, and that is basically all about COVID. Now if you have the COVID vaccine, it doesn't matter. You still have to get proof of those negative tests. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what's on the government website. Okay, My next tip is there is this red and green form that is given to you while you are on your plane, like right before you descend. Your airline will pass out this red and green form, and they take a portion of it and they leave you with the other portion. Now, they don't tell you make sure you keep this, but I'm telling you right now, make sure you keep this and put it inside of your passport so that you don't lose it. You will need this form when you are getting your passport stamped, so make sure, you guys, literally make sure you keep it. If you don't and you lose it, they will give you another one, except they will charge you. And the form is basically asking what hotel you're going to and how long you're staying, the reason that you're going, the flight that you're on, the flight number, the airline that you booked. It's basically asking like personal information. Why? I don't know. But if any of y'all watch this and you find out and you know, leave a comment down below so that I can read it. And if you would like to know, just Google it. like, I'm sure that's a thing. You just Google it. And so try to keep a pen in your carry-on or even in your personal item, your purse or your pocket. Try to keep a pen on you, because a lot of the airlines don't have pens for like 100 people on a flight. So if you have your own, it makes everything so much more simple, and not having to borrow a pen from somebody next to you, or you get to be the person, if you want, to loan your pen to other people, because most of the time people just don't carry a pen when they're traveling. And I don't know why, I don't, but since I knew I was going to have to fill out this form, I decided to carry a pen. There is also a health questionnaire, and you can do this online, but they also give you a form at the airport, and you just have to turn it in. And basically it asks about your health. It asks basically about your name, your date of birth, where you're from, and then it asks about COVID. Have you had COVID in the last whatever? Are you around certain type of workers? Have you been exposed to COVID in the last 7 days? Like, it asks all these types of COVID questions just to see like if you are well enough to get on the plane. And it also asks and makes sure that it's like basically also double checking the fact that you really got your COVID test and you didn't falsify the information on it at all. And going back to COVID tests, when I got my COVID test to come back to the US, I was kind of trying to figure out at what point they ask for your COVID test, and I didn't know exactly when they would ask for your COVID test, but they ask for it at your airlines before you depart. And so this is after you check in, this is after you take your bag, this is after you go through customs and security. Like, it's after, literally after all of that. It's literally at the very front where you board, but you have to go up to them and tell them, like, I'm checking in, this is my stuff. And I didn't do that because I didn't know, so I went and I just sat down, and then the lady called my name on the microphone to come, so I went and then I showed her everything. At first I was like, did I need to take a COVID test for nothing? Did I take a COVID test for nothing? But then they eventually called me. So make sure you go up to them and like show them your paperwork, especially if you don't have any checked bags, because it's possible that they could have asked this like in the beginning, but I didn't have checked bags and I just used my phone to check in for my flight. Another tip that I have for you to make sure you do before you are traveling is basically to make sure you get to the airport at a decent time. I am the type of person who cuts it close just because I don't have any check bags, and I usually check it on my phone. So I didn't want to miss my flight at all because I put in a lot of money to this trip, like the hotel and to different places that my Airbnb, like all this stuff cost me so much money, my rental, and I knew like no matter what, whether I made it or not, I would be charged for these things, and so there was no way I wanted to miss. And online it tells you to make sure you're there 3 hours prior to departure, and I feel like that's a good number. And for me, I think I was there maybe 2 hours before because I didn't have any checked bags and I had a lot of spare time to waste, you guys. However, I went in the morning, like my departing flight was in the morning, and my departing flight was in the morning, so it wasn't that many people. But on the way back, you have to go through, I feel like you have to go through much more stuff, and the lines, you guys, the lines in Mexico are wild. The lines are literally ridiculously long. So especially if you have checked bags or you have a large party, I say make sure you are there, because if the lines move slow, like there's nothing that you can do about it besides stand there and wait. And the worst thing ever is to miss a flight. I also didn't want to miss my flight because I looked when the next flight would be before I even left, and it was no flight that day. It was no flight until 2 days from then, and I knew I could not stay there for 2 more days because I had to go back to work. Another thing that you should totally do before you travel is to check the weather. Now Cancun is known for being nice and sunny, good weather, but when I went it was a lot of sporadic raining, and so I made sure I had my raincoat for that, and then also my tennis shoes, just in case on that day if it was raining that I was ready to go, because I still was going to go out. I still was going to go to the beach, and if it rained then I would have my jacket to put on, and then I would go and just go inside of somewhere, like maybe a restaurant, until the rain stopped, and then I would just go back to where I was, because I didn't want the rain to stop me from having fun. So just make sure you check the weather. Next, I would pay everything in pesos. You get a lot of bang for your buck when you pay in pesos, because $1 American is 20 pesos, and so that is honestly a lot of money. I went to lots of places for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it just seemed like I had so much money because everything was so cheap. Like, we hear about Mexican stuff, Mexican items being cheap, but Jesus, you guys, like, they are significantly cheap. I would have pesos so that you can leave a tip for people. I would also have Mexican pesos, just so you can, if you go to like a shopping center or like some type of flea market or a hotel zone, they have like little vendors where you can buy shirts, you can buy, you know, shot glasses and things like that. I would definitely highly recommend pesos, especially because the people there, you know, like they live off pesos and not American dollars. So it's like, if somebody came here and you had a shop and then they were trying to give you pesos, you would be looking at them like, what am I gonna do with pesos? You know, like nobody, like, we don't accept pesos. So it's best if you get the currency for the place that you're going to, and that was super simple for me. I do have a full video on how I got Mexican pesos before I went to Mexico, and the do's and don'ts of that. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead and check that out. Okay. Also, one of the big things is, a lot of people say get a Telcel Mexican SIM card when you go to Mexico, and what that basically means is make sure you have a SIM card inserted in your phone so that it works when you are at Mexico, or get like some type of flip phone or something so that you can put a SIM card in it. But I highly disagree with that, just because a lot of cell phone providers, if you call them, this is what I did, if you call them, they can add Mexican service and make sure you have internet and calling in Mexico through your own personal device. Because if you want to get the Mexican thing, like, you have to literally stop somewhere in Mexico and get that done. And they have them at like the gas stations. Somebody was telling me to do it from a gas station, but I was like, oh no, it's fine. And I have a whole story on that, you guys, like how I literally went to Mexico with no cell service at all. It was kind of scary. So if you're interested in that, I do have that on my series as well. But that is a big thing, you guys. Make sure you have cell service, especially if you're a solo traveler, because that can be kind of frightening to be somewhere and anything can happen and you have no cell service. Before I went to Mexico, I gave my location to lots of people, but if you don't have service, then the location it doesn't work. Following that is drinking water. Make sure all the water that you drink is bottled. The hotel that I stayed at had bottled water. And if you go to restaurants, maybe you can ask them for bottled water. You can stop at the gas station if you feel, comfortable. I kind of didn't feel comfortable stopping at the gas stations, just because, like, y'all can't see me because I'm sitting down. You can't see my lower body, but I'm like pretty built. Like, I have a nice shape, and I just kind of didn't want anybody to flirt with me, hit on me, or anything like that. So I did not stop at the gas station. Even when I was supposed to refill my car with gas, I just told them to, like, take it from my deposit because I was not stopping to get gas. I couldn't. So make sure you get cell service before and watch my story. Okay, so this might go without saying, but just be careful of the people that you talk to. Now, everybody is not bad, and everybody's not bad. However, just be careful, because there are lots of people in the world who kill, who rob, who steal, who try to get you drunk, who might douse your alcohol with something that it shouldn't be to make you lose consciousness. Just be careful of that in general, you guys. Whenever I saw people staring at me or wanting to have a more conversation, the paranoia in me, I was like, no, leave me alone. I was like, no, leave me alone, just because, like, I came here alone. People can tell that I'm here alone, and I kind of just don't want to engage in any extra stuff. Now, if you are a savage and you don't care about any of that, then go for it. Go to a party with some random person you just met. This guy was asking me to meet up with him to do snorkeling, and this other guy was trying to talk to me while I was eating my dinner one day at the beach, and I just personally didn't feel comfortable engaging in those type of conversations, just because I was alone. It was apparent that I was alone, and you just never know what type of schemes people are trying to run. So just be careful in general. You just never know the intentions of other people. Don't let people catch you off guard. Don't let people catch you, drunk. If you have your friends and your buddies around, and that's what y'all do, then by all means. But if it's just you, or maybe you don't fully trust your friends to take care of you, just try not to get sloppy drunk. Don't go off with strangers. I don't want to have anybody end up on the news, or just never coming back to where they're from because of something crazy that happened that could have been avoided by just not giving into a different conversation. Another thing that I read online was to learn basic Spanish. I know a lot of basic Spanish. However, when you're conversing in Mexico, it's better to me if you speak in English, because if you start speaking in Spanish, then they're gonna know, they're gonna think that you know Spanish, and then they're gonna try to speak more and more and more to you in Spanish, and then you just can't keep up. But it is good to know basic stuff. But every restaurant that I went to, they handed me a menu that was in English, so they could tell that I wasn't from there. And then they're like ready and they're prepared, you know, to pass you stuff that's in English. A lot of the people spoke English. If they didn't, they had somebody higher up that did speak English, and they would come over and assist you. So I'm not saying it's not good to know Spanish or to not know like the basic terms, because it is. But just be wary of that, because somebody starts having a full-blown conversation with you because you said, hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. Like you started, mi nombre es, like you started speaking Spanish and you start using, you know, like accent with it. Then people are like, whoa, she knows Spanish, let me have a full-blown conversation. And then you're like, you know, like, that was a bit much for me. That was a bit much. So yeah. I read not to keep your passport and or like your visa with you, and I feel like this is a wager, you guys, because I understand why I would say not to keep your passport and your visa with you, because, you know, like if somebody robs you, somebody mugs you, like that's it, it's gone, there's nothing you can do about it. However, everywhere I went, I took my passport and my ID with me. I had on a belt around my waist, and I had it inside of there. And even when I went inside of the water at the beach, like everywhere I went, I took it with me, because I didn't feel comfortable leaving it at the hotel or at the Airbnb, because people can come in and people can steal your stuff, you know? Like, I would feel way worse if I put my stuff in my hotel where I thought it was safe, and then I came in and it was gone. Rather than like I was out with it and I got robbed, then I'm like, well shit, I shouldn't have took it out. So just like think about the pros and cons for you. And I left it on my body. Like I didn't put it in a purse, I didn't put it in a pocket, I had it legit on my body, you guys. But with that, make sure you take photocopies of your ID and then also of your passport. Send them to people that you know and you trust, so that if it does get stolen, they can, you know, send it to you, or maybe even email it to yourself, so that if you lose yours, you can print it, and you know, you won't have as much problems with at least identifying who you are, because you have copies of it. Because if you just have nothing, that can be a little crazy. And so I can imagine if somebody stole your identification and your phone, then it's like, what would you do? So I would literally honestly suggest sending it to people, but also sending it to your email, because you can log on from your email from anywhere. You can use a computer at the hotel that you're at, and you can always, you know, pull that up and print that. But it's also good if other people have it, so in case you go missing or you're lost, you know, they can say, this is where she was, this is where she came from, this is her hotel information. So just share that type of stuff with people as well. Anyways, guys, this video is getting super long, and there's literally so many tips that I can have you to think about before you desire to travel abroad, to Cancun, to anywhere, to keep you nice, healthy, and safe. But I'm gonna end this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. This is a full-blown series, a playlist that I have. So if you're interested, please go and watch some more videos. And until next time, you guys, peace.